Today I have for you Jack Factory's Authentic ISO Whey, as you can see here in the chocolate flavor. Now this is just pure whey isolate, and there's not too much to go into detail regarding the supplement itself. I'll cover a few different things around it that I've noticed with it, but I think it's best for me to compare it to a protein powder that you're likely familiar with, and that is Optimum Nutrition's Gold Standard Whey. And that will at least give you a reference point to kind of see how this compares to something like that. So I'll just pull that down here. But just to start, so one of the main differences is Jack Factory's protein is a pure whey isolate. Now, Gold Standard Optimum Nutrition is actually whey concentrate based as the first ingredient, and then it has some whey isolate to round it out. The difference is typically the whey isolate is filtered, I guess, more, so it has less lactose. So if you do have a minor dairy intolerance, the isolates are better for you than the concentrates, which have more lactose. Obviously, if you are fully lactose intolerant, you won't even use a dairy-based protein powder. But for anyone that maybe is trying to limit their dairy for whatever reason, that's just something to be aware of. The other thing is when you have whey isolates versus concentrates, whey isolates typically have more protein per serving than a whey concentrate. So a typical whey protein concentrate will have, say, 22 grams of protein per 30 gram scoop, whereas a whey isolate will have 25 plus grams per scoop. Typically, obviously, it depends on how many other additives there are in there in terms of flavors and things like that. So typically, you're getting more protein per serving in an isolate versus a concentrate, which means you're going to pay a little more. In terms of how this protein actually is compared to something like this, so you'll find that the protein is actually a lot finer in the Jack Factory versus the Gold Standard Whey and other proteins. So it means you don't get any clumps, nothing when you mix it. So if you're mixing it just on its own with water and a shaker, you're not going to have any issues with clumping. I'm going to see if you can see how fine the powder is on the camera there. You might be able to see some of that. Either way, I'm going to show you the Optimum Nutrition one. It is not as fine, and as you can see, it somewhat sticks to the thing as well. That's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just more of the fact that just to show you that, it is a finer powder, so it definitely does not clump. The other thing that's different with this protein that I've found is it's a lot sweeter than other chocolate proteins. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're not a fan of, I guess, sweet tasting protein powders, then I wouldn't go for Jack Factory's one. If you don't mind some of that, that's all good. The nice thing is there's actually not much in here in terms of ingredients. So it's just whey isolate, cocoa powder for the chocolate flavor, natural and artificial flavors, Himalayan rock salt, and sucralose. And that's literally it. Obviously with the Gold Standard Whey, I've actually reviewed this on the channel as well, you can check that out, but it's a whey protein blend, and then it's cocoa powder, flavor, sunflower or soy lecithin, creamer, which has a bunch of different stuff in it, salt, some potassium, sucralose. So it's got a lot more ingredients in this. I guess you could say this is a quote-unquote cleaner version, this Jack Factory one, so it's quite good to use. In terms of how the macros break down, so you get 30 servings per container on this one, 120 calories, 32.6 grams per scoop, and in that you get 25 grams of protein. So you already get a lot more protein. For example, in here, same scoop size, 32 grams, you get 24 grams in this one, so an extra gram. You have 2 grams of carbohydrates in here, you have 3 grams of carbohydrates in Optimum Nutrition, you have 1 gram of fat in here, and you have 2 grams in Optimum Nutrition. So 1 gram more of protein, 1 gram less of carbohydrates and fat in the Jack Factory version. Whether that matters to you or not, it's kind of up to you and how your diet is set out, etc. But other than that, good protein powder. You could say arguably it is slightly better than the Optimum Nutrition one. It's just going to depend on your price point and what you prefer in terms of sweetness as well, and maybe in terms of buying in bulk, because Jack Factory only comes in this 30 serving container. Optimum Nutrition obviously comes in these bigger bags. So that's something to be aware of. This will cost you around $1.16 per serving. Optimum Nutrition, depending on where you get it from. So if you're in the US and you get it from Costco, it's going to be around, I think it's 78 or 80 cents per serving. So you're saving about 40 cents per serving. It's best to compare it on a per serving price versus a total cost, because obviously different sizes, etc. So bear that in mind. You're going to pay a little more for a pure whey isolate than the whey concentrate version that has the whey isolate, etc. in there. But other than that, that basically covers all of this here. You also have the subscription version of this. I think that might bring the price down even further too, so bear that in mind. But if you like this review, please let me know down in the comments. There'll be a link for Jacked Factory protein that helps support the channel that is there. And if there's anything else you want me to review, let me know down in the comments.